Well, summer's here, and the garden's buzzing. I just love the energy of this time, and there's still more to come. And this year, I have to say, we spent so much time in the garden with the family. It's been wonderful, for the most part. For my kids, this garden is a leisure centre. They're dojo. They play all sorts of ball games here and cause all sorts of damage. Now this is a Pittosporum Tom Thumb. It should be like an evergreen tuffet, a perfect dome. But you can see what's happened here. A basketball has been slam dunked into the centre, and now it has, well, what's best described as an unfashionably wide parting. But it's fixable with a bit of string and a knot that my old dad taught me. It's called a trucker's hitch. You get the string, you fold it in half, and then you just tie a simple knot in it to give you a loop. Now the loop is the genius of this, because when you're using soft twine, if you run that through the branches just halfway up from the compost, underneath any that are splayed and broken, put the end through the loop, and you see, as I tighten, just gently, all the stems get pulled back up into the centre of the plant. And like broken bones, after a while, they'll set in their new position and the plant will look as good as new until the basketball comes out again. But tying up with string isn't the only way to get plants to grow in the direction you want. You see this lemon tree? It's a bit bare on one side. That's because at the start of lockdown, I moved it from my greenhouse and put it into a container. And where the stems sat at the back of the greenhouse against the wall, well, they're bare. But there is life, and I can tell that because they are dormant buds. Now, the reason why they're dormant is all to do with the top of the plant. You see, as plants grow, the buds on the very top dominate the ones below. It's a botanical term called apical dominance. They send down hormones that keeps the lower buds asleep, because this is where it wants to grow, up into the sunshine. But you can wake up those buds and stop these hormones coming down with this clever little trick called notching. And all you do is get a sharp knife and then run 2 cuts just above the bud you want to grow. You take out that little valley there, so you can see the green. Now what that does is it blocks the hormones coming down to the bud, suppressing it, while still allowing all the goodness to come up from the roots. So with a fair wind, this bud will break and I'll get a branch exactly where I want it. It doesn't just work on fruit trees. My Acer is coming back to life after a very tough time under another shrub, thanks to this notching technique. One thing I have noticed with the family spending more time in the garden is how the taller members of the Buckland clan are catching their heads on this branch. Now, admittedly, this birch tree, it is planted right next to the garden path, and as the summer growth really gets going, this is going to bend down and become even more in the way. Now, notching is a technique to get buds to grow where you want them. There's another technique called nicking that will inhibit the growth of a branch like this. Now, it's the same thing, really, but instead of cutting above the bud, or the branch in this case, I'm going to put a little slither below it. Now that maintains the buds and the apical dominance from the top of the tree, but hinders the goodness coming up from the roots, which really does put the mockers on this branch altogether. It just keeps it the same. So a little nick like that makes all the difference. It can stop branches like these growing into the fence, branches like this one growing across the path. One family-proof plant I'm very fond of is the hardy cranesbill. They're tough, so survive the cut and thrust of the borders, but can get hidden by taller neighbours. So I'm going to shift a couple, as I have an important job for them in another part of the garden. Now this, right by the edge of the lawn, might seem an unlikely place to put a cranesbill geranium, but I'll show you why it's so good in a minute. Now, before I get them in the ground, this seems counterintuitive, but if I was to leave these leaves and flowers on this plant, sure as anything, it would just wilt and die off from the top. So I'm going to give it a kickstart with a good prune, because cutting down the tops encourages the roots to spread. You get new growth, the plant gets a grip on Mother Earth so much better if you do that. Now at this time of year, when moving any plant, absolute key is a good soaking in. Now the reason why I like cranesbills around the edge of my lawn is because not only can you see them and celebrate their lovely flowers, they are so robust and they save me a job that I don't like doing. See, I'm quite tall, and edging shears, I don't know, they make me stoop over, and it's the one gardening job that gives me a bad back. And by growing me cranesbills around the edge of the grass, they sort of burgeon and flop over the lawn, and I don't need to keep the edge nice and trim. Of course, if the grass does come up, this is the robustness of cranesbills for you. I can just go over the lot with a mower and they'll bounce back with lots of flowers, but no grass amongst them. And if the kids are out here playing football, well, so what? The cranesbills are tough enough to survive. One flower you wouldn't put on your team where ball games are concerned, are gladioli. But I love the way their delicate spikes of colour last right through till the autumn. And it's not too late to plant the corms. What I do is when they arrive, I put them into multi-purpose compost, get them straight out of the plastic bags because they sweat inside those. And in this dry compost, but basically they don't shoot, but they do, you can see, produce roots, which means they're ready to rocket away as soon as they're in the ground. There's all sorts of different techniques for planting them, but I ignore the packets and what it says on them and stick them in nice and deep, good 6 inches down. That's because when they're grown well, their foliage is like a great big spinnaker. It's like a sail that will rock around in the breeze. And if you plant them deep, they're anchored and then they don't need staking. Put them in 2s, 3s and 5s, somewhere where it's easy to water. They like a bit of moisture when they're growing. And 90 days after they've gone into the ground, the first flowers will be showing. So this will be lighting up my garden right at the back end of the year, like a last hurrah of summer.